Hello and welcome to the Council of Elders. I would like to show you now just a very small clip of what we will be discussing tonight. Yes, the signs in the heavens. So I would like to first introduce the panel of elders, and the first I will speak to you about is Elder Deacon Elder and Elder Thomas Cavin, who's a Cardinal, Elder Emil Johansson, who's a Cardinal, and our special guest today is Cardinal, who is also an Elder, Clark Isaac. So today we're starting off with, again, a teaching from the Return of Christ book that you can purchase from Amazon. We will have the link underneath this video. So today, Elder Eldon will be starting with a teaching upon the blood red moons. Please take it away, brother.
Thank you, Sister Samantha. The following is a teaching from the book called The Return of Christ, entitled Dark Sun, Blood Moon. Acts 2:20 tells us that the sun will be turned to darkness and the moon to blood before the coming of the great and glorious day of the Lord. The tetrad period of Rael's divine conception and birth not only contained 4 blood moons, but also a total solar eclipse, thus completely and accurately fulfilling the astronomical prophecy of his return. It is believed that Revelation 6:12 added to Acts 2:20 talks of solar and lunar signs of Christ's return, by telling us that there was to be a great earthquake. Rael was born in 1968 in the state of Illinois, and shortly after his birth, Illinois experienced its largest ever recorded earthquake. This earthquake was one of the most widely felt in US history. Though centered in Illinois, it affected over 23 states. Millions of people felt the earthquake, but miraculously, there were no fatalities. On May the 21st, 2011, Lord Rael publicly announced that he was going to darken the sun. Just 24 days after Lord Rael's threat, scientists announced that the sun, in a highly unusual and unexpected way, went into a period of low activity that could bring on an ice age. That's the end of the teaching from the Return of Christ book, but here is some other useful information about blood moons. The tetrad blood moon prophecies are prophecies in the Bible which states that a tetrad is a series of 4 consecutive lunar eclipses, also coinciding on Jewish holidays, that has 6 full moons in between and no intervening partial lunar eclipses. This happened in the last century in 1949, 1967, and again in 2014. The last tetrad, which began in 2014, ended with the lunar eclipse on September the 27, 2015. It is claimed that a blood moon is a sign of the beginning of the end times. This originates from the book of Joel, where it is written that the sun will turn into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord. This prophecy was repeated by St. Peter during his Pentecost speech, as stated in Acts. The blood moon is also prophesied in the book of Revelation, chapter 6:12, and it states there, "And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood." There is great historical significance to all this, since in the past, the rare appearance of 4 blood moons on Jewish feast days has coincided with major events for Israel and the Jewish people. And each of the last 4 blood moons, you have something that begins in a tragedy, yet ends in triumph for Israel. In 1492, Spain expelled the Jews, Columbus discovered America, and that became a safe haven for the Jewish people. In 1948, Israel was reborn as a nation. After 2,000 years, God supernaturally brought them back to Israel from 66 nations, and the nation was born in a day. All this following the tragedy of the Holocaust. In 1967, Israel won the Six-Day War and recaptured Jerusalem. For the first time in 2,000 years, Jerusalem and the state of Israel was together again. In 2014, it coincided with major events in the Middle East and around the world. A war between Israel and Hamas in the summer of 2014, the rise of ISIS and the emergence of a new caliphate in Syria and Iraq. Terrorism increased around the world, along with the rise in anti-Semitism throughout Europe. The following is a recent quote from the world-famous pastor John Hagee. When all is said and done, he said, "The flag of Israel will be flying over the walls of the city of Jerusalem when the Messiah comes, and it's going to be forever," he said. "And every nation that rises up in judgment against Israel will be punished, and punished severely." Well, the Messiah, Lord Rael, did indeed arrive in 2011 and withheld his face until the correct time at Purim in 2019, which also fulfilled the prophecy of Rabbi Kaduri that people will see the Messiah after the death of Ariel Sharon, who died in 2014. Okay, that's the end of my part. I'll hand back to Sister Samantha.
Thank you very much, brother. We have also got information as regards to what is happening even now, which is to do with the Nemesis system. And I believe Elder Kevin will be able to speak to you about this. Please, brother, please take it away.
Thank you, Sister Samantha. A second sun has now been viewed in our skies and has been filmed and displayed on the news and around the internet. If you're actually doing a YouTube search on this, search for two sun sightings. But scientists are completely baffled by it. Upon the return of Christ, the Gnostic Testament of Levi tells us, "His star shall arise in heaven as of a king, lighting up the light of knowledge as the sun of the day, and he shall be magnified in the world." The Nemesis system consists of what we know as diadems or planets. Nana, and Amal Saru, in which some of these planets also carry moons with them. Nicknamed Nemesis, or the Death Star, this object that has been detected as a red or brown dwarf, or even a darker presence several times the mass of Jupiter, and also known by the name of the planet of the crossing. Originally, Nemesis was suggested as a way to explain a cycle of massive extinctions on Earth, and known for being the cause of the Great Flood in the time of Noah, which swept away most of humanity at that time from the face of this earth, because of the mixing of humanity's seed line by some of the sons of God, forming another race called the Nephilim. Our solar system is surrounded by a vast collection of icy bodies called the Oort cloud, and our sun is a part of a binary system in which two gravitationally bound stars orbit a common center of mass. This interaction disturbs the Oort cloud on a periodic basis, sending comets and debris whizzing towards us. In Zecharia Sitchin's book, The 12th Planet, Sitchin explains, through deciphering the cuneiform tablets, Nibiru reaches our inner solar system once every 3,600 years and is the home planet of the Anunnaki, the race responsible for seeding man upon this earth. The average height of an Anunnaki being is in the region of 9 to 10 feet, some possibly a little taller. The Bible is well versed and tells us of this history. In Genesis 6:4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became men which are of old, men of renown. In Malachi 4:2, but unto thee, you that fear thy name, shall the Son of Righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the stall. Today we hear through news channels all over the internet the sightings of meteors entering Earth's atmosphere and asteroids skimming past Earth on an unprecedented scale, never been seen before, which have been getting closer and closer to impact level due to the Nemesis system forever nearing the Earth's vicinity. I have some video footage which I would ask Cardinal Samantha to show you, and I would ask you to pay close attention to the footage of what you're about to witness. Here we have a clip showing the Nemesis system with some of its planets, moons and debris fields from the NASA satellites, and one showing one of the fast-moving comets which accompany the Nemesis system. This is dated on the 14th of the 8th, 2020.
Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you, Cardinal.
Excellent. Particularly seeing those the debris right near the sun, and that big planet, the actual big planet, the side on this side. Amazing
Exactly.
footage. Yeah. And
Coincidentally,
yeah.
the vector is actually shown on the NASA logo. And
Mm,
that's what you just seen there.
yeah. And the fact you're actually seeing also the naked eye a lot more now, so you can't really deny it's there anymore. A lot closer.
That's right. There's so many sightings all over the internet.
Yeah. Right, I'm sure there's actually some codes, if I'm not mistaken. I think Elder Cardinal Emil Johansson has some of these codes relating to I think the blood moon and Nemesis. If you'd like to take it away, brother.
All right, thank you very much, Sister Samantha. And that's right, I have prepared 6 codes in total here, which are very interesting indeed. Let's see if I can share my screen here. And the first one, I'm going to show 2 about the blood moons and 4 about Nibiru. And the first one here says 4 blood moon. And you have, going along the main search term here, you got a secondary search term, which says truly from nothing, which I believe could be a reference to many people being taken by surprise by this event, the blood moon tetrad. And then you have demand, claim, require, which I believe is a reference to the Lord and his claim to the throne, which is rightfully his and will be recognized as such in time. And we have monetary financial, which probably signifies that it's going to be a great change in the world economics, which we are already seeing right now with the pandemic, and it's going to have a monumental effect on the world economy.
I'm sure that specific time when the Tetrads came out, was it the 2016, 17 period, or 15? No, 14, 15. And if I remember correctly, Barack Obama was stating about the US economy at the time being so many, was it trillions in debt, if I remember correctly?
Yes, probably right. The US have been struggling with debt for quite a time. And I'll move on to the next one here. We have 2-4 blood moon. And you've got the roguery wither going here, and you've got bitter embittered, which I believe is a reference to the temperament of the people of the world being just polarized and embittered. And you've got breakout, escape, bunk, flight. Breakout could be a reference to that our moon at one point in history was part of something else, which it broke out from, and became our moon through a collision, if I'm not mistaken, with another world.
I think it was down to the time when this Earth was actually Tiamat, and I think, if I remember correctly, the moon that was actually one of their moons had actually been dragged with Earth at the time during that collision. So that's why it's, and the fact it's supposed to be basically a space station from what other people have been talking about.
Right. And you have star-like, because it's, not a star, but star-like, a moon. Let's move on to the codes about Nibiru. And this first one here is probably the only one that's very positive in nature, while the other ones talk about calamities and destruction, which is what Nibiru does when it comes in close proximity to Earth, having all the effects on the magnetic field of Earth and so on. So let's take a look at here, this main search term here, which extends very, very far. It's a long extension. The name of the king of Nibiru, him, and we have some references here to the name, me, Rael, going here, and you have Ra, Aleph, Leah, going parallel to the main search term here. And you have liftoff, reference perhaps to the armies of heaven and such. And you have process, which I believe is a reference to the process of the judgment, beginning with his arrival here. And you have stealthily, secretly, which is a reference probably to his manner of arrival as a thief in the night, as we can read in the Gospels. And then you have something very interesting. You have the word sacrifice and sanitation. And you can see here in the matrix, it almost forms like cross here. So I believe that this is a reference to the Christian doctrine of him giving his life to save us, and sanitation being, ridding the world of evil.
Mm. I mean, the interesting fact is the fact that Nibiru came through in one of its passings at the time when he was on the cross, which caused the darkening of the sun at that time, and of course the earthquake.
Absolutely. And you have apotheosis, and the Lord being Son of God is, apotheosis is a word that means reaching divinity, deify. So that's a confirmation there as well. And then you have Rael here at the side. So of course Nibiru was the world he came from, and it's the world of the civilization that created us in their image. So it's very interesting. And next one is incoming Nibiru. You have the main search term here, and you have a very long secondary search term here, talking about verification and fairness pursuant. And the fairness could, which we're going to find again in another code, be a reference to the heating of the world, which is when a star is pretty hot after all, and when it comes closer, the temperature rises.
Which it did when the system was coming into our system. There was an actual scientific proof that Pluto, who's really, really cold, and yet it's way out there in the sticks, or furthest away from the sun, and yet it heated up just as Nibiru and its system was coming in. And all the other planets in a row start heating up as they was progressing through that system.
Exactly. And then you have Leo God's flame here as well. Rael, me, and the name of God here. And let's take a look at the next one. If that would disappear. There we go. Kosher as Nibiru, the world Ra. Also a very long extension to the main search term. You have you are Lear here. Believer, credulous, you have here. Calamitous. Now we're seeing these words here, signifying calamity when it approaches. Colonizer, because as we mentioned before, they sort of colonized this world. Lament, cry, mourn, wail, which is what many people are going to do when they see the sign in the sky.
Well, they do that also with the deluge, which is renowned for the Noah's flood, and they were wailing and gnashing their teeth. Yeah,
exactly. And the Nibiru proximity of Earth was what caused the deluge, of course, which almost wiped out humanity.
Yeah.
And yeah. And let's look at the next one here, which is this is a very interesting one because this has been discovered by Michael Ha, our brother, and this, interestingly enough, has a skip of 2019. And I don't know if you can see that, but it was discovered and published here in 2019. And you have a secondary term here saying full complete July, which it does have a wide skip in the matrix, but it is a 7-letter word, so I believe it is a confirmation here as well, because it was discovered in July of 2019. And of course, the main search term extends to Nibiru, woe, true, truth, certainty. So, like, yeah, there's going to be some woe when this comes close. You have some other very interesting words here. You have behold a seed, and a seed you say about someone acceding to the throne. It's a word that means you claim some sort of office, you accede to the throne, which is sort of what the Lord is going to do. And you have another word about destruction here, and you have verification, confirmation again. And you have a term saying all whole surrounding encirclement here, which I believe is a reference to it completing its orbit, which it does with certain regularity every few thousand years or so. And or it could be a reference to that is something that concerns the whole world. And you have the founder of the Lamb, and there's Burn, and Uriah, God is my light, the flame of God. So you got many very similar words coming up again and again. Any other comments on this one or so, before I move on to the next segment?
Interesting that it's got burn at the bottom there, Emil. I mean, which is obviously going to be happening and is prophesied in the Bible about it getting burnt.
Right. Let's move on to the next part here, because I was going to talk about yet another sign in the sky which appeared in 2017. And let's just remind us of this prophecy here from Revelation 12. This is the very first verses here. Now a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, with a moon under her feet, and on her head a garland of 12 stars. Then being with child, she cried out in labor and in pain to give birth. And this speaks about the sun, moon, stars, so it's clearly a astronomical sign, which we can see in the heavens. And this is what it looked like in 2017. If you see this picture here, you have Virgo here. And if you can see, make it out here, you have her legs here. And there's the sun, being clothed with the sun, and the moon at her feet. And there is the king planet, Jupiter, which she has just been giving birth to here. And we're going to see a video on this shortly. And here you have the constellation of Leo, which consists of 9 stars. And in addition to this, you at this time have 3 other stars lining up, which are the planets of Mercury, Mars, and Venus. So it's all lining up here. And let's take a look at the video, which I'm going to show here. What we're going to see is a period of 9 months, which is the period for a normal pregnancy for a woman. And we're going to see how the king star Jupiter moves within the constellation. I'm going to bring this up here. And this starts, and you can see the timestamps up here, 2016, November. And in 2016 of November 2016, it enters the womb. And you need to pay attention to the lines here. You can see her legs here, and this line here representing the womb. And you can see Jupiter moving, coming close to exiting, but it doesn't. It moves back up. It enters a retrograde phase. For a period of 4 months, it appears as if it's going in reverse, and then it comes back down, returning to its original trajectory. And when we come to September of 2017, you can see she is giving birth to the king planet Jupiter. And this takes 9 months.
Yeah, and I've noticed also during that year, once she actually starts to get to that point where she's going to give birth to planet Jupiter, there's actually the labor pains spoken of in the scripture, that the nations shall have labor pains. And we saw that in the news a lot, with conflict and animosity between nations.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on for sure.
Mm.
And you can see that this sign hasn't appeared very often. It's a very rare sign. And I don't believe it's been as perfect as this time before. And you can see last time it was almost 200 years ago, 1827. Before that, 1483, then 1293, and 1056. And this is the only period of time in 2017 when all of the other signs, the blood moons and so on, coincide. And that really signifies to anyone who knows the things, their prophecy and so on, that this is a time to pay attention. This is a time that the Lord is going to take his throne. And that concludes my segment on this sign, and I'll hand it back to you, Sister Samantha.
Thank you very much, brother. They are absolutely wonderful signs, and like you said about the Virgin, that specific year has been the only one actually fulfilled exactly to a T, the exact positions, and the fact that it went out of the womb, and it actually came out during the period of the Lord's birth in this host, which is the 9th and 10th. It actually did this little loop and then go back in. And that's just like a little marker in the signs, the fact that the Lord Rael is actually, that's his actual birth date, of his actual birth here, as back in the flesh. So, that was a big sign in itself. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we have something really, really amazing it's an exclusive, literally, on the Council of Elders. And I'm happy that our special guest this week is Elder Cardinal Clark Isaac, who's very much into the Islamic prophecies. He specializes in it in a very big way. And he gives a lot of teachings regarding this and corrections to the Islamic people. So if you'd like to take it away, brother, and divulge the exclusive.
That was probably the best introduction I've ever received in my life. I'm honored. Thank you, sister. And thank you, brothers, for having me. Yeah, it's some really interesting timing with all these signs in the heavens. And there's a couple of other signs that happened quite recently, also very interesting timing. So let's just start from the beginning. And it was already mentioned on the screen before in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 21, verse 25, that there would be signs in the sun, the moon, and in the stars, and in the earth. It's easy to assume that all these things would coincide with one another. And they do. In the Quran, chapter 54, the chapter titled The Moon, Al-Qamar, it's very specific about a sign which occurred during the time of Prophet Muhammad. And it's also assumed by scholars that this sign would happen again, and has. What is this sign? Well, the hour has drawn near, and the moon has split in two. Now, a lot of people may not be aware of this, but it is common knowledge amongst Muslims that this sign, not only did it occur back then, but that it would occur again before the Day of Judgment. And this is theorized by Muslim scholar Abdullah Yusuf Ali, who is quite famous for his theories on Islam and also his translation of the Quran into English, amongst many other things. This sign is also coinciding with a hadith that was written, or many hadiths actually, but one specifically does describe how this was seen. And just to give a little bit of background as to what was happening during this time, the prophet and his followers were walking along a mountainside trail, and they asked him to show them a sign. Well, the sign was given to them by God, and that sign was this. In number 6725, it says, "This hadith has been transmitted by the authority of Abdullah Masud, who said, 'We were along with Allah's messenger, may peace be upon him, at Mina. That moon was split up into two. One of its parts was behind the mountain, and the other one was on this side of the mountain. Allah's messenger, may peace be upon him, said to us, bear witness to this. Well, of course, it's important to bear witness to such a miraculous sign, but also bearing witness to the locations of those two halves of the moon. Of course, being on the mountainside and you see half the moon on one side of the mountain and then half of it on the other, you have to turn from one side of the horizon to the other to see it. Well, somebody else saw something similar to that quite recently. And I'd like to show that to you. Let me bring it up on the screen real quick for you. Let's all take a look together.
There's a moon. That is the moon. And there's another moon. I have two moons I'm looking at. There's a moon.
Just amazing. Amazing that this sign is happening the way that it is and where it is and when it is. How do we know where and when? Well, a lot of our clergy has done some research on this, and I know that Sister Samantha was a great part of that, and she actually discovered that this was in Kansas City, and she provided evidence of it by showing us exactly that monument that you saw there in purple. I'm going to try and bring that up on the screen for you, for you to see the example that was brought to our attention by Sister Samantha here. And here's one of the photos, right? You see this on the screen there. That's the exact same monument, but it's not in purple, strangely enough. Yeah, but it is in this picture, which is a screenshot of the image. You can see it's the exact same monument, the same shape. And you can see this building down here. Well, there's an example of the same building from a different angle and the same monument behind it. So it is verified that this is in Kansas City, Missouri. Okay, we've proven that much. A lot of people are theorizing that this monument is actually in Sydney, Australia, but many Australians will tell you that this is not the Sydney Opera House. Though it may look something like it, it's definitely not it. But why purple, right? And what is the significance to it being purple? Usually it wouldn't be significant, but in this case it is very significant in determining the time frame in which this video must have been filmed. You see here in this article, it's saying that Kansas City is turning purple on November 19th. So that's just within the last few weeks of the time that we're filming this now on December 10th, 2020. And this sign being revealed to us only a few days ago, December 7th, 2020. It had to have been after November 19th up until that time which it was revealed to us, somewhere within that time frame that this was recorded, that this sign was seen around the world. There's a lot of important signs that have been happening around this time frame. It's not just this. And this is the interesting part about this timing. We could call it divine timing, because around the same time, within that time frame, we have something very interesting occurring with the state of Israel, Palestine, the United Nations, Mahmoud Abbas addressing the United Nations and reinitiating their vow to continue the struggle against Israel within that same time frame, occurring all the way up until right about this time, the 33rd anniversary of the Intifada, the first Intifada between Palestine and Israel, and that vow being renewed, that struggle, that fight to divide Israel. Well, the Lord warned about this in the past, and just like back in 2011, a coronal mass ejection was sent towards the earth at that time as a warning. And it's happened again. You see here December 8th, 2020. Well, this actually occurred December 7th, 2020. The Lord knew this would happen. He expected it to happen. And the earth is now feeling the effects of a coronal mass ejection, which is hitting the earth right now. December 9th, 2020 is when it hits the Earth. And we know from the past, scientists know this as well, that when these coronal mass ejections hit the magnetosphere of the Earth, it causes a lot of problems with the electrical grid, with communications, telecommunications, but also with geology. Major earthquakes, volcanoes, even weather events on the Earth are affected by the energy which is emitted from the sun. Now, coronal mass ejection, that's the highest concentration of energy that we're aware of that could possibly hit the Earth from the sun. And that just happened, coinciding with some very important biblical signs and Quranic signs. Now, we have context here to prove that in 2011, after the Lord returned, he did give a warning to Israel. And that warning was very clear. On September 3rd, 2021, Lord Rael warned, he gave this warning to the United Nations. Now take a close listen and we'll provide context for you as we play this.
I do want to warn you that what you have seen thus far is but a wake-up call. I want you to prepare. Now, to other pressing matters. This is to both Israel and the United Nations. Do not divide my land. There is a Palestinian solution. It does not involve a reduction of Israel. Israel is to remain intact. If its borders are reduced, you shall know my anger.
But 20 days later, against Lord Rael's commandment, the Palestinians submit a bid for statehood to the United Nations.
After days of diplomatic wrangling and decades of waiting, a formal application from the Palestinian state for membership of the United Nations, the letter handed over to the Secretary General by Mahmoud Abbas in his capacity as chairman of the Palestine Liberation Organization.
The United Nations accepts the application and promises to review it until September 27th and vote on it September 28th. Well, what happens then? We let governments around the world know of Lord Rael's intentions much earlier than that. And the Russians act accordingly. Keep in mind those dates which coincide. September 28th, 2011. Super Sunblast fears put Russian nuke plants in lockdown. Notice the timing, notice the event which is occurring. Coronal mass ejection is exactly what that's describing, a sun blast. So does the United States. Put into DEFCON 1, which is the highest threat level to national security. Quoting cocked pistol being a maximum readiness alert on September 27th. Because of the same reason, Obama was ordered to a Denver bunker by US military. So you're seeing all of these things occurring as a sign, a warning.
That just
So
shows
Lord
us.
Rael,
That just really shows how scared they were. Really does about what was intending to happen.
yeah, and they should be. I would be scared if I had the sun pointing a rifle at my head. I mean, the energy behind that it's unimaginable, and it's happening right now. Again, on the 33rd anniversary of the Intifada against Israel, the Lord's sending this message again and again to make it clear who's in charge. And if that was just all of the evidence, I mean, even that should be sufficient for people. But we also have the blessing of the Torah code, which tells us even more information about these signs. Brother Emil, I'm going to put a few of these Torah codes on the screen. They are discoveries of yours. If you would describe them to us and to the audience, we'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. let's see. There we go. So we found 2 codes for the main search term 2 moons. And this is the first one. It extends to faith, religion, 2 moons. And you can see way off to the left side there, you've got something that really confirms that it's real. You got the words real and sincere, genuine, authentic, true. And you got a very interesting secondary term going straight through the main search term, saying optical trophy chalice. And the way those half moons can look, it could appear to look as some sort of chalice or cup. And it was optical, it was something you could see, as we just saw the video you showed us. And there's some other very interesting words there as well, like increase, praising, compassion, and brotherhood, fellowship. And you could move on to the next one.
Sure. Yeah. And before we do, there is something interesting I wanted to note here. You see authentic and genuine here, right? And you see it paralleled to the word increase, praising. They're lined up perfectly, the pink and the blue, right?
Yeah.
Well, I want to share just one thing briefly. There's a Quran quote that follows the next verse. And a lot of people think that 2 moon event was a hoax of some kind. And we have the Torah code telling us that this is authentic, that this is a sign worth praise. I mean, we could assume that that's what it means. And we also have the Quran telling us that people would deny this and that they did deny it. Yet whenever they see a sign, they turn away saying same old magic, which is an ancient way of saying it's a hoax. They rejected the truth and followed their own desires, and every matter will be settled, even though the stories of destroyed nations that have already come to them are a sufficient deterrent. And we see those 2 signs of Israel, the CME, the split moons all coinciding with one another. We also have these verses in the Quran. Well, now we have these Torah codes that are saying the same thing. They're confirming the same thing to us.
And I'm glad you continue to read there, because in the next code, we have another reference to what you just read. If you would pull that up. The next code doesn't extend to anything in particular, what I could see, but you have floating and lolling going there in the purple, meaning that it's floating in the sky, and lolling is a word that means to rest on something, to hang in the balance or such. And then you have 2 other words sort of confirming that it's not an actual second moon, because that would be devastating for Earth. If that was the case, it would have huge impact on our environment. But it is a projection of another moon. And you see you have animating, energizing, evoke, and words like that, installing, fixating. And then you have intensification, which is, I'd say, it's a sign that things are just going to move much more quickly, and it's going to become more intense. And I do actually believe, if I'm not mistaken, there is an Islamic prophecy about that as well, that in the end times, it's going to appear as if the time is moving quicker. Could you confirm that perhaps, Clark, or give an opinion on that?
I would have to confirm that at a later time, brother.
Okay. We can pull it up later in some other instance.
Of course.
Anyway, and the next word here, defiance, is a reference to what you just read in the Quran, I believe, that people are going to be defiant and people are going to claim that it's a hoax and just deny what they see with their own eyes, basically. And there are many references like that in the Quran. So yeah, very significant and very interesting.
Wow. Wow. Everything just gets revealed at just the right time, as usual. You know, there's no such thing as coincidence. And particularly when it comes to God's plan, he's got it right there. And out of the Torah code, which has been written for how many years? You know, thousands of years ago. And it's all coming out, all the day things, and how the prophecies all coming at the right time when it's meant to. I just find it absolutely amazing.
No coincidences.
Yeah. And these physical signs as well, you know, being seen. It's absolutely truly wonderful seeing these in the heavens, you know, that's given there by God. It clearly says.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Right. So we must come to a close, and I would like to give my gratitude to the Council of Elders for this wonderful teaching tonight. And I really thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here tonight. And we will be back not next week, but the week after. And that will be a regular occurrence, and we will have a new guest each time. Okay? So I will give you this. May you be blessed. May you be protected. In the name of Lord Royale. Amen.
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 Okay. Goodbye for now.